All right, here we go.
You've attended council hearings in person. You've tuned into our televised proceedings on Channel 13. Now, you have the chance to listen to us on the radio as we demystify our work and the people who do it. This is not a council hearing. This is Hearing the Council with your host, Josh Gibson.
Thank you, deep-voiced person with a funky backbeat. Indeed, this is not a council hearing. This is Hearing the Council. You can't have a government without a council, so you can't have a government radio station without a council show. This is it. I'm Josh Gibson, Director of Communications for the DC Council. You may also know me as our voice on social media at Council of DC. And today I'm thrilled to welcome back the Ward 4 Councilmember Janeese Lewis George. Thank you so much for being generous with your time, Councilmember.
Oh, thank you for having me, Josh. You're the real, everyone loves the DC Council handle. So you're doing a great job.
Excellent, excellent. From your mouth to God's ears. But anyway, I mean, there's a couple different ways people use the show. Sometimes we catch up on kind of the latest things the council is doing. But today we're doing what I think is actually a great use of the radio show, of the podcast, is taking a piece of legislation that deserves greater attention, that deserves having the spotlight on it, and taking a deep dive into it. So I'm, anyway, super excited that this, I think, is a great use of the show. Today, the bill that we're going to be looking at is the Local News Funding Act. So why don't you tell me first a little bit about the need. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of the legislation in a bit, but what is the problem that we're trying to solve?
Absolutely. Local news is shrinking as billionaires buy up outlets and lay off local reporters, and Trump attacks on newsroom. And so today's American news outlets are truly facing an existential threat on multiple fronts, more than we ever have before. And we all know that local news plays a vital role in ensuring local government is transparent, is responsible, and make sure that local voices and local communities are heard and seen. And so investing in local news will help preserve the important sources of news about our community. And this is something that has been an ever-growing issue and crisis that we have to fix, which is supporting our local news and doing so by investing in our local news.
Yeah, and I just quickly on a piece of paper jotted down some of the local news outlets that I've seen go away.
That's right.
Just since I've been involved locally. I think DCist, is probably the most lamented, but also the Express, the In-Towner, the Northwest Current newspapers, Common Denominator, City Papers Print Edition. It's terrible. It's truly terrible. I mean, it's like losing friends to folks like you and me who are in this, and they're beloved news sources that gave much needed attention to the work we do. And they're just gone from one day to the next. And people are not stepping up as quickly to replace them as they are departing.
That's right. I mean, we losing, sections of our, metro local news, losing DCist, and other news stations are also, some of our local news stations are struggling to keep many of amazing journalists and amazing writers, right? And that's what this moment we need. We need our journalists. We need our authentic journalists. We need our investigative journalists. And those are the people we are losing in this moment because so many local news entities are either shutting their doors because of financial reasons, or then choosing to be bought up by billionaires who then have their own ulterior motives and sort of take away true investigative journaling and messaging as it has been and as it does for our society. It really has been sort of, as a legislative body, we sort of do oversight, but journalists have always been the oversight of all of us, right? Right, and that's what they provide. An essential part of our democracy is good, authentic journalism, and we're losing it.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, just from my little tiny perspective, it used to be I also do, like, DC history stuff for the council, and it used to be if we had a really cool project, like Google Street View came in and mapped the inside of the Wilson Building, brought in robots, and they,
Yeah.
3D mapping, and like, is that news? Maybe not, but I think there's a lot of people interested that would at least think it was cool for a little feature. I don't know where I'd take that story. It got picked up by 2 or 3 outlets when we did it 10 years ago. I just don't even know who I would shop it to
Yeah.
these days. And I'm sure, they're the equivalent for you of pieces of legislation that might seem small to some folks, but that deserve a public spotlight. And there's no take on. I mean, you're always trying to, you have to convince people that it's worth a story, but
That's right.
fewer people to convince.
That's right.
So, all right. So let's get into what your response is to this and how you want to try to turn the tide for local journalism.
Yeah. So what the Local News Funding Act would do would pretty much, we would set aside 0.1%, 0.1% of the district's annual budget. So roughly about 11.6 million if you were basing it on the fiscal year 25 budget, right? And that 0.1% of the district annual budget would create the local news grant program to fund media outlets that report local news. And the way it will work is that residents would decide which news outlets receive public grants through news coupons. And this is an idea that came from Seattle, Washington, who used coupons in some of their roles over there. And I thought, okay, here's something we can use towards local news. Each registered voter would receive 5 news coupons through a secure online system that will be allocated, that can be allocated to any news outlet registered with our new community journalism board, right? And so each outlet must make local news available for free to the district, right? So it has to make it free to the district residents, clearly distinguishing news from advertising and disclosing their ownership structure. And so outlets that meet those requirements would receive 250 coupons per quarter, and they would be eligible for a grant award. So the district residents would have the opportunity to say, here are the news, here's the local news outlets that are providing us really great news that we value. And this is where I want to allocate my 5 coupons to. And that means the news stations that get the most coupons will get the most funding. But it's a real incentive for news stations to then report local news even more thoroughly and better, because then they know, hey, I know our residents are looking to give their coupons, and we want them to be a news source that they believe in, that they trust, and they want funding to go towards.
And one subgroup of local journalism that doesn't get mentioned enough but does great work are Black newspapers and Spanish language newspapers.
That's right.
And would they compete in the same grouping as everyone else? And do you think that their uptake would be as high as other local media?
Yeah, we absolutely love the Washington Informer, who has been an amazing entity here in DC, a historically Black-owned newspaper, the Afro American newspaper, and so many others who've been amazing. And so they would be sort of a part of organizations that would be able to receive coupons.
So take me from a individual registered voter standpoint, and I know there's a ton of logistics that need to be come up, but hey, would there be like an annual open season where you would have your coupons and you get to spend them in a certain amount of time? Just kind of walk me through a little bit the process of how a journalistic entity would get on the list of potential recipients and how each voter would get to spend their coupons.
Yeah. So people can allocate them all of them at once or per quarter. And so we would give people the opportunity to do it all at once or do it per quarter. But we would, from an individual perspective, say you get your 5 coupons, you would get a certain period of time before obviously the new fiscal year, because we would need to allocate the budget. So it would all have to happen before October 1 fiscal year begins. So there would be an open period before the new fiscal year budget. But once the new fiscal year budget is passed, then you have the ability to allocate all at once or per quarter based on the fiscal year, how the fiscal year budget is allocated here in the District of Columbia. So you would have to do it the same way we are when we think about sort of participatory budgeting. This is sort of what it looks like in participatory budgeting, except it would be just for this narrow set of funding that's aimed towards our local news.
And then what is done for the folks that choose not to participate or are unaware the process is going on? And we know that voter turnout for actual elections is sadly not what we'd like it to be. So how will that be addressed to maximize participation, and what will happen to the coupons that don't participate?
Well, I think this is incentive for everybody, right? We've been trying to get people to get out the vote and get people to participate, right? And get local news to cover local elections. So for me, this is an opportunity for local news to dig even deeper and help the efforts to get out the vote, because they will also be having the opportunity, individuals will have the opportunity to allocate their coupons as they go to vote as well. And so I think it's an opportunity, an incentive for local news stations to get involved in local news and ensure that they're a part of making sure people are participating in local elections.
Yeah, and it is kind of a continuous circle that the better the local media is, the more people will participate in the elections, and the more people.
That's right.
Participate.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and we know that for. Yeah, and we know that for a fact that it's actually true that when local news outlets shrink, studies have shown that there are profound repercussions on local politics. Fewer candidates run for office. It's harder for constituents to know what their elected leaders are doing, and as a result, people become less responsive to the people who elect them. So it really is sort of a circular incentive that goes to our democracy. Doing our parts.
Yeah, success breeds success.
That's right.
And you already had mentioned the different criteria by which the local media would be judged for participation in this process. Go a little bit more into to those and to what the motivation is for those.
Yeah, that's right. We wanted to make it so that we're not giving money to anyone who's not making sort of news readily accessible to everyone. So part of the reason why we wanted to make it available for free is because that there won't be any paywalls that people have to go past to get to local news, because that really has been and is a deterrent for some residents who can't afford to make those local those $10 a month commitments to different papers to get information. So making it available for free is another way we make sure that information is accessible to everyone. And that's what we're aiming at, right? Making information accessible to everyone. The more people are informed, the better, the more they come out and show up for our democracy. And then we wanted to make sure that they clearly they're distinguishing news from advertising. That's something that in conversations with different journalists, came up and said, you would have to find a way for people to distinguish actual news from advertising. And so that's an important piece. So that actually came from, being on the ground and actually talking to local journalists who've worked for papers as something they thought would be important to make this fair and work. And then disclosing ownership structures is huge right now, right? Because we've seen even most recently what just happened with Jimmy Kimmel and Disney, and conglomerates are now owning papers, and people don't know who's behind it. And so disclosing ownership structure allows for transparency around, who's behind the newspaper, and that gives the opportunity for residents and to know sort of who is on the ownership board of this newspaper, and whether that's an ownership board they want to sort of allocate their coupons to. But also, it makes it clear sort of what people's motives could be or could not be as a result of how news gets disseminated through our newspapers.
And you had alluded to this, but you have reached out and spoken to journalistic businesses, and they seem interested in
Absolutely
benefiting from the coupons and okay with the criteria it takes to get in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had several conversations. Actually, did a panel, I think it was last year, in the auditor's building with a number of different news outlets. Rebuild Local News is a coalition of reporters who have been important partners, and they're interested in seeing bills like this being introduced actually across the country. And so many people have said, everyone talks about a problem, right? And like my mom would say, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. So I'm here to bring a solution to a problem that everybody has been talking about, which is the decline of local news, decline of news reporters, news journalists having true autonomy from billionaires who have been buying up buying up our newspapers. And so I think this is a creative solution to the problem. And I think people should be open to getting creative as we try to solve solutions. That's what this moment calls for: problem solving and creative solutions. And so I absolutely had the opportunity to talk to journalists about it and get their reactions. And, some people were like, this could actually work. And we actually like this, and we actually like that. And we would absolutely benefit from having another source of income to sustain local news for the long term.
And I did see in the legislation that in addition to kind of more traditional journalistic outlets, also independent journalists would be eligible, podcasters. And I guess that would be, once they met the criteria, it would be kind of the marketplace that would decide that if you're an independent journalist, plucky, but you have a following,
right,
you would be able to get coupons. But if I just decided I had a podcast tomorrow, I wouldn't be eligible.
Correct.
Right.
And the idea of that is, news now comes in various mediums, and we have to recognize that. And those various mediums can be and are helpful. And as long as you meet the criteria and receive 250 coupons, you can receive a grant.
And in terms of content, I guess the market again will decide that some folks might want to go in a fun direction and do more silly news features and, vote for your favorite local restaurant, kind of stuff.
Right.
Then other people might do deep dive investigative journalism, and it would be the voters who would decide.
Right. It'll be the voters who decide, what do you want? What news do you, is to your benefit? What do you want to receive? And you could do a mix of that. I remember reading the Express paper on my way to school every day. When we had the Express, I would get on the train. I'd be so excited. And the Express did just that. It had various sections. There were some fun, quirky sections. There was some real substantive work there too. So I think we'll find that most of our local news will do sort of a mix of sort of weighing what is truly important to our residents. And I think this encourages that.
And I mean, I'm unaware of any, but if sort of across the political spectrum, if there were different local journalists that had a different viewpoint, they still would be able to compete.
That's right.
Need to fight for their coupons like everyone else, but they would have an opportunity to participate as well.
Absolutely. That's right. So it's not, wouldn't be sort of, it's based on what the community wants to read, what they care about as far as who would get it.
And I have to ask this question. We can't legislate based on the criticisms we know we'll hear on social
That's
media.
right.
But the legislation does have the word community journalism board, which a certain subset of humanity get a shiver up their spine when they hear that term. So I know you've thought of this, and I know you're ready to respond to it. But what are you going to do to make people more comfortable with that kind of concept that maybe folks aren't used to?
Yeah, the Community Journalism Board really is to just administer the program, and provide development grants for technical support and training. And it would be a nonpartisan board in that respect. We just knew that we needed an entity, um, a nonpartisan, independent entity to be able to actually administer the program and provide the development grants for technical support and training. And so that really is the function of the board, not to sort of it doesn't control sort of the people still control sort of where the grants go. This board is really there to just administer the program and provide that technical assistance as necessary.
Yeah, I mean, in reading the legislation, what it made me kind of think of was at the amusement park, they're like, you have to be this tall to ride the ride. Like, it's just a very basic eligibility criteria, and they're making sure you're that tall, you can ride the ride.
Exactly.
And from
Exactly.
there, like you said, it's the people that decide who gets the money,
Exactly.
So I think that's not something that should cause discomfort to folks.
I hope not.
Um, so next question is the where does the legislation stand? I know it was introduced in the previous council period. I think it got a hearing, reintroduced. So what comes next?
What comes next is a hearing. It has been introduced. The Council Committee on Business and Economic Development, chaired by Councilmember Kenny McDuffie. We've spoken with them. We sent them a letter before recess, asking them to host a hearing. And so we are just waiting on them to set a hearing date. And once that hearing date is set, we will be encouraging everyone to come out and sort of share their voice on, hearing about the legislation, but share their voice on how we can make the legislation work and be even better.
And in your conversations with journalists, I guess they're probably in a little bit of an odd situation, because how do they cover this bill? Because they have technically a vested interest in its success. I trust them to be objective and rigorous about it, but I'm sure there have been meetings where they had to talk about how do we cover this.
Well, you know what? I do have an op-ed in the 51st, and they were willing to, put my op-ed in their on their news outlet. I think what we'll have is a number of journalists should cover it, just to hear from the community, their perspectives. I think it's a good learning opportunity because community members will be able to say sort of what they would like to see from local journalism, what they would like to hear, how we could do it. So, yeah, I mean, it was a bit odd as a politician, putting the bill forward because people were like, oh, you're trying to curry favor with journalism. Like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to create a solution to a problem. And I'll say that that's been the case. I have not gotten any sort of more favorable or less favorable coverage as a result of introducing the bill.
Yeah, no, that makes you said that so Seattle has experience with this. Are there other cities, or and what has Seattle? Has it been implemented in Seattle? What has their experience been?
Well, so this is an original bill, but the inspiration for the news coupons came from Seattle System for Public Finance or Political Campaigns. So they use a coupon system for public financing of political campaigns. I
Oh,
took sort of their idea of coupons. It was sort of the inspiration for news coupons because they had sort of public financing coupons. So
I see.
um, it's an original bill, the first of its kind. And Rebuild Local News recently said, was grateful for the originality and thoughtfulness of it. And so uh, we just sort of inspired by Seattle, but no one has yet actually put this system in place. So we would be the first and to make this happen and hopefully spur the rest of the country to look at local news as a worthy investment.
Oh, that is exciting. I didn't realize that
Yeah.
it was that cutting edge, but that's cool. Um, okay, so and have you gotten any feedback on the hearing request in terms of timeline?
We're hopeful it's going to be this fall. So we're just waiting. We are literally waiting on a date for a hearing that should be coming this fall. So I would guess November is the earliest date we're gonna get a hearing.
And then maybe I might have missed it. There was no funding included in the budget, so it would be subject to appropriations.
Absolutely.
So there would be a bit of a delay on that front, even if
That's right. I was trying to get it done before budget, but as you know, this was a difficult budget year, so there would be a delay.
right. And because it's set as a percentage of the budget,
That's right.
it would, in tougher budget years for us, it would also be a tougher budget year for the journalists.
That's right.
In terms of this component.
Correct.
So, okay, well, I think that kind of wraps up the questions I had on the bill. So that means that it's time to do a quick pivot to the fun round before we go ahead and close out.
I will say, Josh, I want you to cover. I'm going to create a simulation for the DC Council. So I'm going to give my colleagues 5 coupons at our next breakfast, and I'm going to have them choose their outlets and see where the percentages lies. So we're going to do this in real time. So I hope you'll cover it and see where we land.
Oh, 100%. And this podcast is free, so it's not. I will not be competing for coupons.
That's right.
And I guess it does raise the question: there's no ranked choice voting in the distribution of coupons.
That's right.
Okay, God, that'd be a hook for you. That could be more buy-in if you incorporated that. Okay, so let's pivot to the fun round. And you've done this once before. I'm going to give you a crazy task, and I want you to say which of your colleagues, past or present, you think would be best suited for this task,
Okay.
and why. And they're all fun, silly things, so fret not. So who would you want to go on a camping trip with?
A camping trip. Brienne. She's a Girl Scout. Her daughters are Girl Scouts. I know we will survive, and I know we'll have a good time.
Yeah. And she's a top-notch Girl Scout too.
That's right. She's a top-notch Girl Scout, so I feel safe.
Excellent. Okay, so now if you were making a calling into the support line, customer support line for a product, and they were giving you a hard time, I know you'd be successful, but what other council member would you want on the phone to get your weird customer service complaint addressed?
Zachary Parker. He is insistent and relentless when he needs to be. So Zach would be it for me.
would not take any nonsense.
Absolutely.
Okay, so who's let's see. Who would you want to mediate a dispute? I know you've mediated plenty. You'd be good at it. But if you could bring along one council member to try to get two warring sides to come together?
Okay, mediate a dispute.
This is a tricky way of finding out what traits you admire in colleagues, who you think.
No, Councilmember Henderson, I guess. Councilmember Henderson.
And why do you think she'd be good?
You know, she knows how to add light and levity in certain circumstances when the room can get a little heated. And I think she would actually actively, listen to both perspectives and try to bring us to a healthy space. So yeah.
Okay, two more. Dance lesson. If you were going to a dance lesson and you had to bring a council member with you, who would you bring? And it could be because you think they're good at dancing and it'd be fun, or it could be because you think they'd be terrible at dancing and it'd be fun to have.
A dance lesson? Oh man. Probably Mendelssohn, because I know he can't dance. Phil, it is. He can't dance. It would be hilarious to watch. You've seen Phil dance. Actually, you know what? Have you been to the holiday parties? Phil can drop it low. You know what I mean? So yeah, Phil.
I am amazed that I hate dances with set steps. All the dances with set steps, he knows them all. And it's very counterintuitive that he knows them all. But he'll show up and he'll do the dance, get in line.
Oh yeah.
It blows my mind.
At the council holiday party, he sometimes cuts a rug for us.
Yeah, that is for certain. And now the last question is who's, and this is based on a false presumption, assume all the council members write poetry. Whose poetry would you want to read? And again, it could be because you think it'd be great, or it could be because you think it'd be awful.
Poetry. Who would be good at writing poetry? I don't see it in the cards for anybody. This is a tough one. Poetry.
Yeah. I get a lot of Mendelssohn on this one too, but mainly because the being funny and not necessarily.
Honestly, you know what? I'd say Charles Allen. I think he might be a secret poet. We never know. I think Charles, he has a way with words.
Yeah.
Charles Allen kind of it sounds like a poet's name. So Charles Allen, the poet.
Yes, you were not the first to vote for Charles Allen, and I don't think they were kidding when they did. So maybe you're onto something. So anyway, well, thank you again for being so generous with your time, for participating in the fun round.
Thank you.
But listeners, remember to subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search under Hearing the Council. Thanks again for joining us, listeners. Thank you again, Council Member. Tune in next time. We're on DC Radio at 96.3 on your FM HD4 dial or at dcradio.gov. I'm Josh Gibson. This is not a council hearing. This is Hearing the Council. Thanks again. Take care.